It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio.
Hello and welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio Channel 147, Sirius XM. I am your host for the day, Lyndsey Smith, and it is August 1st. Yes, first day of a new crop year. It is also a Thursday, which means it is time for the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. On today's show, we're going to head to Nova Scotia, Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, and then hop back to Manitoba to talk to Derwyn Hammond with Pioneer Seeds Canada, get an update on what the crop is looking like and what farmers should be scouting for this time of year. Without further ado, let's get to it. Our first stop is in Nova Scotia. Joining me now here on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, I have Geneve Newcombe out of Port Williams, Nova Scotia. Geneve, how are you?
Good. Sun's shining and we're having a good day here.
Well, that is okay. I like it. What's keeping you busy this week? Tell us a bit about your farm.
So, actually, you hit us on probably one of our busiest weeks. We've been combining corn, baling straw. We have a new flock of pullets arriving tomorrow, so getting ready for those. So there's lots of things going on here. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so thank you then for making time for us, because that does sound like a very busy week. Now, straw, so I'm assuming wheat, or what crop is that's coming off?
It's wheat. Yeah. We grow winter wheat, so they're harvesting our winter wheat now.
Yeah, and how did the yields go?
The yields are average or a little better, so we've been pretty happy so far with how things are looking.
Yeah, good. Now, are you experiencing, because I know here in Ontario, straw yield is absolutely through the roof with all the moisture and the early growing conditions. Did you experience something similar?
Yes. Yeah, no. And even as I look out front here now at the corn, it's so much taller than it normally is for the end of July. Things are growing well.
Good. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's always good to have a good year.
Yeah, exactly. Now pullets come in tomorrow. So what does it look like to have to be ready for that? What sort of things do you have to, or have you been doing to be ready for tomorrow?
So it's more getting the barn set up. So they're day-old chicks that come in that will grow till they're about 17, 18 weeks of age, and then they become laying hens. So it's just, getting that barn set up, making sure it's clean, disinfect it, fresh straw down, feed lines working well, that everything's ready to go to feed and take care of these babies when they come tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. They are pretty darn adorable. I'll give you that much.
They are cute.
Yeah, it's a good start. Now, this to me seems like a wonderful time to be putting pullets in versus, say, January, when you may have to worry about them staying warm. But I wonder, does it get too hot for baby chicks? How do you regulate temperature in those first few days?
It doesn't normally worry about it getting too hot, because they like it to be 31, 32 degrees. So, heat shouldn't be an issue for them at this time of year. If it does get a little too hot, then with the fans and the ventilation, you're able to control it. But it's not like having a mature bird and trying to keep them cool in this heat. So chicks are good.
Yeah, it is a much easier fit than mature birds. Yeah, exactly. Now, and so you did mention fans. So for mature birds in hot weather, you've got fans. Is it a challenge to keep the barn something, manageable for mature birds?
When we have the high humidity, we're not having, when you get that oppressive heat, it could be quite a challenge, especially earlier this year when it came in really fast and sudden. There was no acclimatization. Yeah. So if you have mature birds in that, then, it is it is a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Now these are laying hens, of course, or future laying hens, I suppose.
Future laying hens.
Yes, future laying hens. How many groups do you do a year?
Currently, we just do one flock a year.
Mm-hmm.
We have a large flock. We're actually in the process of going to build a new lay barn next year, so we will be splitting our flock into 2 next year.
Okay. Now, a new laying, okay, so that then, how cool does the egg gathering setup look? Like, is it fully automated?
Almost.
So close.
We still, yeah. No, everything runs, but at the end, when those trays of eggs come off, somebody still needs to pack those up and put them on pallets and take them to the cooler. So it still provides employment for our high school students in the neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am a high school student that spent many years gathering eggs in a lay barn. But that was prior to it fully automated. I still had to do the actual picking up of eggs and putting them in a tray, which is not how it's done anymore.
No, they're just picking up the trays now.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier.
It's so much easier. But still, it's good to know that there's still some human element of getting them to the cooler, I guess.
Yeah, still a great employment for high school students to help out.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's good to have high school jobs and learn about where your food comes from and how to run a farm. Now we are, of course, midsummer, as we'll call it. Do you have any big plans for summer break, or once those pullets are in, that's it? They need babysat, and you better have taken your days off already.
Yeah, we don't tend to go away in the summer. We're always something going on here. Although we did take a couple of days off last week for our daughter's wedding.
Oh wow. Okay, that's big news.
That was exciting.
Yeah, no kidding.
That was fun.
Yeah, that's.
So I think we're all rested and recovered now.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that was excellent timing. Now, did she plan it knowing that there would be pullets going in and making sure you guys had time? Was that part of the planning process?
She did ask about a year ago when in the summer would work best for the farm.
Oh,
so we did. Like I said, things are a bit earlier this year, but towards the late part of July, usually it's fairly quiet. We're kind of in between hay crops and starting harvesting, so it was good.
That is good. Now I have a question of the week, and it's it's inspired by Tuesday's radio show. Sean talked about business planning and making time for business planning. But also he mentioned, and this is where I want the question of the week to be, that, he likes going for when he's doing a long drive. He likes to think about, bigger picture things and planning stuff. And so my question is, when do you do your best business planning? Is there a particular activity or time of year or something that you're doing that is your best time for like all that businessy thinking?
So I'll give you 2 answers. For me personally, if I'm thinking of myself, I like to take time to swim in the summer. And when I swim and I'm just kind of out there and clearing my mind, that's the time I do a lot of thinking, and business planning comes into that.
Yep.
As a farm family, it's a wintertime thing.
Yeah.
When there's a little more downtime.
Yeah.
So, it's more of a downtime. We can all take time to get together and make some plans. That's going to be more a wintertime activity, but personally, I get a lot of my good thoughts during a summer swim.
I like it. And that is quintessentially Canadian summer, let me tell you. And a great idea. Now, so thinking about in the winter, do you as a family, as a farm family, do you have set meetings or on a regular basis, or do you have sort of one looking at the year ahead? What does that look like in the winter?
In the winter, well, we always have, year-round, we have meetings every Monday with our staff, and that's more just planning out the week or the next few weeks. We're a little more, I don't want to say haphazard. We'll take time in the winter to do that, but we don't have a set time, so we'll just sort of look at what works for everybody and find a couple different evenings and sometimes it's just family getting together over supper first to get those discussions going.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Good for you. There's still some people that don't have real meetings. So these are important things.
Very important. As we started, especially doing some succession planning here, and we worked on that for 3 or 4 years. Family meetings were the crux of getting that going and moving. Like, we couldn't have done it without that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Geneve, thank you. This is a very busy week, so I really do appreciate you taking some time to share what's happening on the farm here on the Farmer Rapid Fire.
Well, it's great chatting with you too, Lyndsey. Thank you.
Let's take a quick break, and I'll be back with the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, right after this.
FP Genetics relentlessly brings innovative new seed genetics to Canadian farms, ensuring growers, breeders, and farmers are supported and viable. Being a valued partner on your farm for decades, you can expect the continuous pursuit of the best genetics. Visit fpgenetics.ca to discover FP's hybrid fall rye varieties and their end uses, or contact your local FP seed dealer or territory manager to discuss your fall seed strategy specific to your region.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
RealAg Radio is Canada's only daily radio show focused on agriculture. Get expert advice on Agronomic Monday. Tuesdays and Wednesdays will cover a broad range of issues. Thursday we'll hear from farmers across the country on the Farmer Rapid Fire. And we'll wrap things up Fridays with the RealAg Issues panel with Kelvin Hepner and Lyndsey Smith. Join us Monday through Friday at 4:30 Eastern. And don't forget about the replay at 7 in the morning on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM.
Welcome back to RealAg Radio. I am your host, Lyndsey Smith, and it is time for the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. We head now to near Renfrew, Ontario, and it is Jenn Doelman on the line. How are you, Jenn?
I'm great, Lyndsey. How are you?
I am so well, and this is so exciting that we get to chat, although kind of hilarious that in order for us to actually talk on the phone, we have to schedule an interview.
That's what busy people do, unfortunately.
I'm pretty sure. I think that's how it goes. Okay, and in speaking of busy, you have had a lot going on this year on your farm. So where are things at? There was a shop build. There were some bins that were going up. Where's everything at?
Well, we're out of money now, so that's great. We bought a farm, too. So now I will never, ever, 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 ever be debt-free, and I don't think I'll ever have to pay income tax again. So, yes, we bought a farm, we finished the shop, we built a dryer last year and a grain bin, and then we just finished another grain bin. And, yeah, now there's nothing left, so we're good.
Okay.
Now I'm like the seven Forbes. I owe, so off to work I go.
That's right. That is away you go. Now, exciting stuff. Really neat to see it all come together. I can't wait to see sort of all the new edition, final edition, we'll call it. Tell us about a new farm. So was this like in the plan, or was this too good a deal to pass up? What happened?
A bit of both. So I have to give my brother and his partner a lot of credit. They decided that they needed to change their priorities. It's hard to get good custom operators, myself included, out and about. And when you hit that mid-40s, you stop and take stock of your life. And I think they realized that the value that they gained in the equity of this farm was worth more value to them now, where they could actually invest in their home and themselves, and then maybe not have to work quite so hard. And it's beautiful ground. It's beautiful ground, like the best farm on the road. And it's just up the road from me. And we're like, we can't afford this. But again, being from family, you wanted to make sure you offered fair market value, right? Like they shouldn't have to suffer so we can thrive. And they gave us first shot. Our banker was very supportive. The cost of debt servicing is like enough to make you feel like you're passing like a kidney stone. Mm-hmm. But if worse comes to worse, we sell another farm, right? This is good ground. And it's nice to know now that they can invest in having, a new addition on their home someday.
Right. Right. And I mean, it is a good way to look at it that if it's good ground and you have other ground that maybe is less good, it is, if someday you do have to still, restructure or drum up some capital, overall you could improve the average of your ground if you maybe unload some of the poorer stuff. So that's a good option.
Well, yeah. Right now is not the time to unload. Thankfully, we moved the sale date ahead of the shenanigans the Liberal government did.
Yes,
so they were able to not have to deal with all these capital gains issues now. But and the crop was beautiful. It's actually kind of neat. That's where we're doing the Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. Living Labs project is actually on the farm.
Oh, cool. So what project is that? What is it looking at?
Nitrogen emissions one.
Ah, cool.
Yeah,
okay.
Nitrogen emissions. Yeah, and we're a little far from Ottawa, so this shows you how naive and you know me, Lyndsey. I love to take on challenges.
That's right.
He's like, oh, it's too far to go. I'm like, but it's really important to make sure that you've got research in these underserviced communities. I'll do some of the research data collection for you. Right. And it was a lot of fun doing nitrogen emissions tests. Like you go out with your test tubes and your vials when the corn was knee high. It's not fun anymore, Lyndsey.
How tall is so the corn around? We as the crow flies, or as a car drives anyway, about 45-50 minutes apart. The corn where I am is a skyscraper tall, so I can only imagine what you're dealing with.
Well, and you have to drag these like 2x2 boxes between the rows and like not break anything. Like the summer students used to come every second week.
Yes.
The students actually like made a little highway through my field. And my husband was snarky. And then I went, I'm like, we might need to expand the highway 3 weeks.
Yeah, you might need to do divided highway through the corn. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is when, if we could ever invest in like that auto row shut off, I could have like made a little map ahead of time. Mm-hmm. But no, we have a very old corn planter.
So, but at the same time, you learned some things of what you would do differently next time. Like possibly also not saying yes to this.
Yeah.
Although you did volunteer, so that's on you. Yeah. But it follows in line with, there are many of us, I think, that if you want to do something or see something happen, nobody else is doing it. So you put up your hand and say, okay, well, then I will do it. And so in this instance, you saw that this needed to get done, so then you'll do it. Or yourself.
Well, honestly, I'm overweight and in my mid-40s. I don't actually make time to go to the gym, but if I sign up for stuff like being a beekeeper or doing this, I get so many steps in a day.
Yes, there you go. See, so many birds, one stone. No, I think it's brilliant. It's a great way to make it really functional. Are we into wheat harvest? Is this a quiet time? Are you just gearing up for what happens this week?
No. Well, all the neighbors are done their wheat, so my husband is very personable right now because we haven't had a breakdown. Right. But no, we're plugging away. The tractor that hauls the baler's broken, so it's a great time to cast your net. And so we've been able to hire in a few neighbors that were between hay crops to help get some straw baled. And I honestly, we've even got 2 neighbors who are done that will volunteer to help finish if we need to. Okay. So I just know I got to get my combine fixed so I can finish the variety trials because no one wants that job.
Nobody does. That is correct.
Time is money, but we need the data.
That's right. Actually, that is a good question. What does that entail as far as data collection for those things? Is that like you've got to weigh off everything and how much extra work does it take to do all those?
If our employee or my husband does it, it's actually pretty slick. We've got a good system in place. We have an old weigh wagon that we inherited. It's kind of the community weigh wagon, and we store it so we get to grab it. And it's mostly like we've got things down tickety-boo, just a few checks. We still grow hard red winter wheat, which a lot of Ontario doesn't. Right. So there's not really anything in the east that kind of shows us. And every year we look at all of our neighbors converting to soft red, and we're just like, but our hard red yields better, which it's not supposed to. So every year we're like, maybe this is the year we switch to soft, but we haven't yet.
Right. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I figure if it works, what is it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know. It seems like
well, and on a wet year, I'm not worried about sprouting right now. That I think the point is the now it used to be great because all of my wheat went straight to Montreal in the winter months. Mm-hmm. But, consolidations of companies, staff moving on. Now, honestly, my hard red winter goes to the feed market because they pay better.
Yeah. Well, that's all right too.
Which is kind of tragic.
Well,
yeah.
As a livestock producer, that's okay.
You need protein too.
we need protein too. So thank you for that. All right. Before we run out of time, because this is a problem we might have, is getting chatty, chit-chat buddies, as my 7-year-old would say. My question this week is, where do you do your best business thinking? So what activity are you doing?
Walking.
Where are you? Oh, walking. Do you take actual
either
walks or like?
Yeah. My husband had to get a stint at 40, and I've already mentioned I'm overweight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a workaholic, and my husband wanted us to slow down, but I can't sit at the table. I'm just, it's like strapping me down. Yeah. So we've compromised because the doctor wants him walking more. So we have a morning business meeting and we go for a walk. My uncle is awesome. He's a retiree, and he actually put a roadway across the road from us that's got gravel on it so his wife can do her daily walking. So they let us use their little walking trail. So there's no, you don't have to worry about the dog getting hit by a car. You don't have to worry about making your shoes all wet for the day. But we go for our morning business meeting, and we get about, 5,000 steps here halfway through the day. And if it's not that, like when I'm trying to wrestle with issues, it's when I'm in the honey house. Monotonous work with your hands.
Yep.
But that is also when I come up with my greatest ideas for I should take this project on. So I have to be very careful about that.
Right. Do not do too much of work in the honey house, or else suddenly you have too much on your plate.
The to-do list. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
we're definitely movers.
That's right. I was listening to a podcast that was talking about how our brains are actually very well suited to the thinking while our hands stay busy. Right? It's almost like we're made to sort of do those mundane, repetitive sort of tasks, and the brain just keeps itself occupied going through all our big ideas and all those sorts of things. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I have severe ADHD, and this makes me more personable.
Well, and we are all glad for it because we all benefit, because you are a hoot to have around. So, Jen, thank you for being on the Farmer Rapid Fire. I appreciate it.
Thanks for calling me in.
Alrighty. We'll be back with more of the Farmer Rapid Fire right after this.
We are joined right now by the Canadian consultant for Helena, Patrick Langell.
Helena is a leading company that delivers formulation technology into the ag industry across the U.S., and a number of those work excellently up here in Canada.
Why do you get excited about research?
Probably 50 years there's been data out there that has proven that good humic product can have an excellent return on investment. Research delivers that to almost anybody who grows a crop and adds it into their fertilizer blend the year of application. All across Canada, we have these different types of soils and fits into almost any different application you can come across. And if we can increase the amount of nutrients, then you just have a much higher quality product that you're able to grow that season. Yeah. These biostimulants can be used to take your nutrient use efficiency. Adding in the right biostimulants, such as Resurge, can bump that from 40 to 60, perhaps up to 50 to 80, making that investment much more valuable.
So you can find out more by going to helenaagra.com.
Since 2010, the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com has been helping farmers to grow great wheat. Covering everything from markets, the latest research, pest and disease control, all the way down to on-farm trials, the Wheat School has everything your crop needs. Check out our massive video library on YouTube and grow great wheat with the Wheat School, brought to you by Syngenta Canada, C&M Seeds, and Alberta Grains.
Welcome back to Real Ag Radio here on Thursday, August 1st. I am your host, Lyndsey Smith, and it is, of course, the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. For more than 90 years, Pioneer has developed and tested products to meet your local challenges. With new Z-Series soybeans, Optimum Glide Canola, top-performing corn products and industry-leading traits and technologies to maximize yield potential. Pioneer's on-the-ground teams can help you get the right products for your fields. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more. We head now to Saskatchewan, and I've got online Darryl Fransoo. He's at Glaslyn. Darryl, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you, Lyndsey?
I'm doing great. We haven't been able to connect in a long time, so this is quite nice.
No, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has. Okay, so here we are. We're rapidly approaching, the dog days of summer, as they call it. What keeps you busy this week on the farm?
We're just starting to get ready for harvest. We're still probably a month out, but kind of pick away at things and maybe enjoy a little time off here and there for once.
Yes, that is actually, this is our summers make up for the winters, right? So you should get out there and enjoy them at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I spend a little bit of time at the lake. I haven't got there enough yet, but hopefully August I can get there a few days here and there.
Yeah, for sure. Now, getting ready for harvest, what does that look like? Is the combine in for a big old once over? Is the swather ready to go? What takes the cake right now?
Yeah, the combines are pretty much ready to go. We're just going through headers and swathers, and we got a few oils to change. I don't think anything major that we're finding, so that's nice.
Mm-hmm. That is nice. Now, you do have a swather. For our Ontario friends or perhaps other places, they may think, what? Because swathing is not necessarily a big deal. So, but for the canola, were you ever part of Team Sell the Swather? Has the swather been used more or less the same in the last 10 years that we've had pod shatter resistance? How has swathing fit into your canola operation?
We have never straight cut canola up here in the Northwest. I think, just a different climate, the canola doesn't want to come in, so we got to cut it down and dry it down that way. It's one more operation, but it's not a big deal to us. Like I said, we've done it the whole farming career, right?
Mm-hmm. And it is fast. Like, it goes pretty quick.
Yeah, you can get a lot, especially with the newer swathers, you get a lot of acres done. So it's, usually we're combining wheat while we're swathing, so that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I think it's just a necessity up here still. There's not a whole lot of acres that are getting straight cut north of North Battleford.
Yeah. And it does mean certainly, it's a harvest management tool, right? So it just becomes part of how you plan things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, it was becoming a thing here maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. And a couple of years in a row, we had an early snowfall, and the guys that had it swathed had a lot easier time combining than the guys that were trying to straight cut it still.
Yeah.
It's a totally different. It's a different world up here in the Northwest. It's fun.
You know what? Sometimes you really have to. I feel like it's important to spend time well outside of your own farming zone to get perspective like that. Because I think it's one thing to say it; it's another to see it and see how far north you actually are, or west, or whatever it might be compared to where your home farm is.
Yeah, for sure. And we have a pretty high elevation up here, so that plays a different role too that doesn't exist in a lot of Western Canada anyways. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to, travel all of the agricultural land in Canada, and it's obviously quite diverse, and there's different practices that work in different places.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. I don't know. I quite like farm tours wherever we end up. So if I'm in your neighborhood, guess what? I'm stopping in. So now, getting ready for harvest is always, a little stressful, but exciting, of course, to see how the year really will end up turning out. How has the growing season gone? Are you in one of those very, very dry areas that hasn't necessarily seen a return to moisture?
Yeah, we are. We ended last season and we were in decent shape. We just have not got the rainfall this year. We're between 2 and 4 inches on the whole farm. So that heat wave there a week ago or so really put a damper on the crops. I would classify them as poor, but it's a little area, and unfortunately that's where our farm is.
Yeah, it is sort of one of those kind of the weather lottery, right? Is that some people have won it this year and others absolutely not. Yeah.
Absolutely, I would say it's the thunderstorm lottery, and unfortunately it stayed every other direction but right here. So nothing you can do about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, you can't control the weather.
No, one of these days we maybe will be able to at least. I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
that might get pretty dangerous. I don't know if we want to go down that route.
I don't think we do either. Now, okay, so no, but are you in an area where you would say, you plan for at least very dry conditions as the norm? Is that something that is part of that, or is this a relatively, in the last few years has been the challenge, but hasn't been the long-term trend?
No, for sure. We're not in a high rainfall area, but we do normally have a decent enough moisture. We're usually fighting the growing season, not the moisture, right? So this is definitely abnormal for us.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of years here in a row that unfortunately we haven't got it. Last year we were lucky; we had timely rains. The year before, obviously, there was a drought kind of Western Canadian wide. So it is unusual. We usually get the rain.
Yeah. Okay. And what is the crop mix? So we talked wheat and canola. What else is in the mix?
We grow soft white wheat for the ethanol plant in Lloydminster, and we grow canola for the crush plant. We used to grow a lot of pulses, ran into root rot problems, so we've kind of went away from them for the last 7-8 years. And so we're in a 2-crop rotation. Unfortunately, up here there isn't many options. It's a cereal and canola kind of deal.
Okay. And that's okay. You got to do what works. And the fact that you have crush and ethanol means that's not a bad setup.
No, we're fortunate. We have every major grain company within kind of 100 miles. And we got crush, we got ethanol, we got the specialty pulse places and stuff like that. So the area is generally really competitive.
Okay. So, it's always nice to have a market in your backyard. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it is. We're fortunate. We're kind of on the outskirts of the oil country, so the ethanol refinery at Lloydminster is a big get for us.
Yeah, no kidding.
We generally have a hard time growing number 1 hard red just because our growing season is so short. So growing this feed wheat, it's been putting money in the farmer's pocket, I guess.
Yeah. Now, sort of along this line, my question this week is on business planning. And my question that I'm asking all the farmers is, when do you do your best business planning? Is there a particular activity that you do that you come up with your greatest ideas, or do you make yourself sit down and have a meeting? When do you come up with your best business planning ideas?
That's an interesting question. It seems like for whatever reason, I do a lot of it around the Christmas season, which is totally weird.
That is a bit weird.
Yeah, I don't know why. December seems to be the month. Maybe there's just not a lot going on, and I'm sitting around and it's in my head. There's not one activity that draws me to it, but it just seems that December is the month that I do, a lot of the chem planning, a lot of the equipment planning, a lot of the crop planning for whatever rhyme or reason.
Okay. I don't know. I kind of like that. It is a time of things slow down a little, right? There's lots of family gatherings, but the world sort of, pauses a bit, and they're long dark nights because it's dark by 4:30. So, why not do some paperwork? I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, you don't want to be outside, so
yeah, why not?
And I enjoyed that aspect of it. So it gives me something to do, and it's kind of slower around the farm, and it's just grain hauling and whatnot. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I like it. I think that works just fine. Plus, you can wear your favorite Christmas sweater and use all the twinkly lights and just get cozy. And then there you go. I think that's a great idea. All right, Darryl, thanks so much for joining us. I'll let you get back to getting harvest ready out there.
Awesome. Thanks, Lyndsey.
All right, take care. All right, we're going to hop to a quick break, and we'll be back with the rest of the Farmer Rapid Fire right after this.
The Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com has everything you need to get your crop off to a great start and a strong finish. Whether you're growing chickpeas, faba beans, lentils, or peas, you'll get all the latest and best agronomic information at PulseSchool.com. A library of top-notch agronomy videos from industry experts available on demand at your fingertips. Visit the Pulse School, brought to you by BASF on RealAgriculture.com.
I'm Lyndsey Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomists, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomist with me, Lyndsey Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back to Real Ag Radio here on this August 1st. It is the Farmer Rapid Fire brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, and I am your host, Lyndsey Smith, and we hop now to Alberta. All right, we head now to New Norway, Alberta, and we've got Scott Keller on the line. Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great, Lyndsey, and how are you?
I am doing well. Now, what have we caught you in the midst of this week?
I'm busy this week trucking canola to the local crush plant. So getting the bins all emptied out by the end of the week here. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not going to have a single bushel going into harvest as long as nothing happens. Like I got 4 loads left this week, but the crush plant I know has had some breakdowns and they've been rescheduling some loads. So fingers crossed they can keep it together till the end of the week at least. So.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, I was going to say, is this typical that you'd be fully empty? Is that the goal, or what does it usually look like for this time of year?
Well, it's always the goal, but just like we grow malt barley, and quite often we're holding a bin come fall, because they usually don't start pulling new crop till end of October. So, and they continue malting old crop through September and October. So that's pretty common that we'll have, 10 to 20% of our malt left on hand. But the last 2 years has been the exception, where we've been cleaned out by June or something like that. So I'd say we got lucky. And then, just depending on how you market things, like we had carryover oats because the price was so poor, and finally got rid of those with a little better price. You wish you could have got the price from 2 years ago, but it's just how the marketing plan goes. So.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I think there are many that would have liked to have held on to even a memory of those prices from 2 years ago. It'd be nice.
That's right.
Now, in growing malt, what's the biggest challenge on making malt?
Probably getting lucky with some good harvest weather. Chit, like we have a grain dryer, so we dry things. We do VR. Our nitrogen plan is good, so we don't have to worry about protein. We use PGRs. We use Modus to control our lodging, because standability is always an issue with barley varieties, especially when you are pushing, anything over 90 bushels is going to start having lodging problems, and it's those lodge spots that wreck the quality for the whole field. A barley head that gets rained on sheds the moisture quite well. When one's laying tangled up, it doesn't, and that's where your chit. And then if it rains enough, your sprouts will come in, and that's the main thing that we would get not accepted for is because of chit. It's not because of protein. It's not because of plump. Even when it's higher chit, it still germs well, but they always select the best barley they have, and maltsters are grabbing barley from all over Alberta, so there's pretty much at least somewhere usually that's always got good quality barley and enough bushels that if you're at the bottom end of the scale, you might not get all your barley selected. So rain at harvest, rain end of August, early September is usually that's completely out of our control. So if we don't get too many showers, we can have our barley off in 7 to 10 days and dried, and then away we go. And all the other crops we grow are not so susceptible to grade issues with moisture during harvest. So.
Yeah. Now, how has your growing season been? Have you been on the dry side? Have you been in some of these lovely pockets of good moisture? Where are you at?
We are dry. Like we started May, like we were bone dry our soil. May was above average. We had 3.5 inches of rain in May, which meant our seeding window this year was like 30 or 31 days from start to finish, when it should almost never be that long.
Right.
It should be 3 weeks. May was wet, but we didn't get any drowned out areas. We didn't have any standing water. None of our low spots were moisture stressed just because the soil was so dry. So that was good. And then June was a little dry. We had 1.5 inches in June. Like, that's almost been the norm the last, 2020 was our last year that was exceptionally wet. And we've had a lot of dry Junes the last number of years, but we've still pulled off good yields because then July comes around and we get our normal 3 to 4 inches of rain.
Mm-hmm.
This year, we haven't even got 3/4 of an inch yet in July. And so it's the driest July I've seen, and I've been keeping good rain records for the last 10 years. And the one thing that was different, it was dry enough this year that we hardly sprayed any fungicide. Like, we sprayed our peas because that was the first couple days of July, and then it got so hot and dry. And I've never scouted for disease more in my life than this year, because I decided to not spray. So I look for disease more than I ever have, because normally we just always spray. Like malt barley, we've sprayed our malt every year since 2007. This is the first year we didn't.
Yeah.
And I had a couple part jugs, so I went out and just did a little bit here and there just to verify if that was the right decision.
Yep.
So I guess I'll check that in the fall, but yeah, that's just how dry July has been, and then and hot, of course. I think everybody's had the heat, but our crops are hanging in there. Like, that's what's amazed me. And like another problem we had with our growing season was, like, trying to remember what exact day it was. Is just a couple days before the first day of summer, we had a -1 here. You know, we were kind of at the tail end of spraying our cereal crops. And what I've seen as a result of that is our number of tillers is low. Like, we have a main stem, we have one tiller, and we have some plants, cereal crops, that have a second tiller, but not that many. And normally we should have 3 or 4 tillers, but as dry as we've been and as hot, if we had those 3rd and 4th tillers, and it went through this heat, it would have blasted them off.
Yeah.
So, like, the crop, the number of heads is smaller than normal, but the head size looks good.
Yeah.
So as long as everything that's there fills, I think we might rise with average yields, but I think we're going to be somewhere below average. But for my farm, I don't think we're going to be in a crop insurance payout.
Wild to think that, you know, that low number of tillers actually might work out just fine.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
It might have seemed disappointing at first, but now maybe that saves your bacon, so that's maybe okay.
Yeah, good old frost before the first day of summer, and it saves your bacon, you know, just like you planned it. Like, all our cereals are short. Like, we've got barley, the heads didn't even get above the flag leaf. Like, they're about 3/4 of the way up, and I think that's primarily to do with it being 35 degrees when it was heading out.
So fascinating stuff. And we need to check back. Next time you're on the rapid fire, we need to talk about if your fungicide checks worked out. Because I'm curious to know.
Yep,
I
for
think,
sure.
Right? Like, did you make the right call? So that's cool. I'm glad you have some checks. But my question of the week is, when or where, or maybe it's a combination of the two, do you do your best business planning? Like, your best noodling on business stuff? Is there an activity you're doing when you do it? Or is it like a time and place? When do you do your best business planning?
All of it happens in my office in the basement, sitting in front of my laptop and an Excel spreadsheet. So, and most of it happens in the wintertime.
Yep.
You know, we basically plan everything out, from our fertilizer plan to what we're going to be spraying, budget for cash flow for the year, if we're going to need to take out any loans or operating loans, figure out what I'm going to take for crop insurance. That'll happen, and most of it would actually probably happen in March. End up being too busy usually to know what to do before Christmas, but the plan is almost set in stone come March with exactly what we're doing. Like, we have a pretty rigid crop rotation, so there's really no decisions on what to plant, but certainly, and I'll know in the fall what varieties I'm going to grow. Like, I'm not a guy that goes and tries brand new varieties on a big chunk of the farm. I like to grow a little bit before I dip my toe in the water, before I commit to it. But yeah, all my planning happens in my office and in the wintertime for sure. Okay. I just like to try to be executing the plan in the summer when you're busy.
Yeah.
Not thinking about making the right decisions. So.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we are going to hop to our last segment of today's Farmer Rapid Fire. We're going to chat with Derwyn Hammond out of Manitoba with Pioneer Seeds Canada right after this.
CA.
Canola is more than just a pretty face in the prairie landscape. It's a big business, both here and around the world, that requires you to be informed and up to date on everything it takes to grow a successful crop. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com has an expert library of video resources covering markets, agronomy, and more to help you grow a healthy and profitable canola crop. Visit canolaschool.com today. Brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
Welcome back to Real Ag Radio. I am your host for the day, Lyndsey Smith. And joining me now is Derwyn Hammond, joining me from somewhere outside of Verdun, Manitoba. Derwyn, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I you know what? Probably better than you. It seems very warm where you are.
Yeah. I'm parked near a soybean field that we toured this morning. We got our tour with some customers over with before lunch today. And it's showing 34 degrees on the truck now. So
yeah, it's a little warm.
Yeah,
it's a little warm. Yeah. All right. Now, of course, being out in the field, definitely checking on how the crop is progressing. We are tipping into August, which of course is exciting. But what should farmers have sort of top of mind this week into this long weekend as they're scouting and keeping tabs on how the season is progressing?
Well, I guess there's a few things. One thing in this area here, we had a pretty cool, wet start to the season. Lots of crop went in the ground later than growers would have liked. But the heat the last little while is really moving things along. We've been somewhat fortunate. This is kind of the first mid-30s type temperatures, but last week was in that 30 degrees. So kind of ideal for moving the maturity along, and I think a lot of growers are surprised how fast things are changing. So guys are starting to talk about maybe doing some wheat desiccating in the not too distant future, and peas are coming in already. So I think just, for longer season crops, we still need quite a bit of time for the soybeans and the corn, but silking is well underway, and once we hit that kind of time frame, we're 50 or so days from black layer. So for silage it's that much sooner, so things are moving along. And then watching for those late season insect pests. The one that I've seen the most, and it's mostly in your hayland and roadsides and ditches so far, is grasshoppers. But as hay crops come off that second cut, you'll start to see them migrate into field edges, and so it's the time of year to be watching for that. And then just making sure you continue, even though, maybe we haven't heard a lot of pressure in areas about the typical Bertha armyworm, diamondback moth, those late season pests, ligas bug in the canola, making sure you're out scouting to catch any hot spots if they do develop.
Absolutely. I feel like it's too hot. If I were an insect, I'd be hiding under a leaf. But, maybe not. Some of them probably like it. So there you go. Yeah, for sure. Now, it does, as you mentioned, heat like this does, of course, advance the crop sometimes incredibly quickly, which, our thoughts will start in the next week or two, start to really turn to harvest prep and then, of course, into harvest management. What are some of the things we could be evaluating, perhaps at that, swath timing, starting to look at a crop that's starting to turn? What could we be evaluating or looking for at that point?
Well, certainly from a canola standpoint, even around here where the crop went in late, we're pretty much done flowering in a lot of the fields now. So it won't be that long before things start to turn. So, one of the things to be watching for is those disease management decisions we made earlier in the season, whether it was right at the start, choosing some resistant genetics and seeing how those compare to the non-resistant products that we have across the farm, but watching for those late season diseases. All the big four in canola, verticillium stripe, blackleg, sclerotinia, and clubroot, they all cut off moisture and nutrients to the plant in different ways, but ultimately the above ground symptoms are plants die prematurely. And so watching for patches or individual plants among healthy plants to see that, and then evaluating what percentage of those plants are affected, how big an area and fields are affected. That gives us a lot of cues as to the risk of each of those. And then as we select products or make plans for fungicide applications for next year, understanding that risk profile of our farm is really important.
I find, so you mentioned verticillium, that's sort of a new one, that farmers have to watch out for. But blackleg is one of those ones that, we've dealt with for a long time, but it's still so important to get out there and clip those stems and actually get a sense of, field by field, how the year turned out for blackleg infection to inform next year or the next time canola is on that field.
Yeah, that's correct. There's, it's one of those diseases that there's lots of diversity in that fungal population, particularly if you recognize you're in a higher risk, high frequency canola rotation, that selection pressure is going to cause that population to shift over time. And, your favorite products that have maybe worked well the last 2 or 3 times you grew them on that field, we may start to see some changes as time goes on in terms of how well that product performs. And so, there are opportunities to shift to different products with a different genetics for resistance. And the other key thing, though, I think, is we see enough of all of those diseases in fields in different areas now that you can't assume that a prematurely dying plant is dying from any particular disease. Right. It's about getting out there and identifying what you're really dealing with, and then you can start to make those management decisions appropriately.
Really good point. Make sure you know what killed it. Don't just guess. This is really important, everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, we'll maybe leave it there. That's a lot to chew through for certain for this week. It sounds like everyone's going to be very busy in the next couple of weeks, and I hope so. I really hope that we also get maybe a slight cooling off. It can still be warm. It's summer. That's great, but 34 is too warm.
Yeah, we could certainly use a little cooler, and a lot of the crops could use a bit of a drink around here sometime in the next few days.
Okay, well, we'll put the order in, Derwyn. We'll see how we do. All right. Thanks so much for joining me here on the show and on the Farmer Rapid Fire, Derwyn. I appreciate it.
And thanks for having me.
Well, that does it for another edition of the Farmer Rapid Fire here on Rural Radio Channel 147, Sirius XM. Of course, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Big shout out and thank you to them. I have been your host, Lyndsey Smith, and if you have any feedback on today's show, give us a call, 1-855-776-6147. Drop me an email, lsmith@realagriculture.com, or of course, you can find us across social media at RealAgriculture. drop it in search, you'll find us. Have a wonderful day, and I am back for the Issues panel tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.